Okay, welcome to the Librarians of the Citadel Game of Thrones episode recap for episode 8.5, The Bells. So usually we go in somewhat like chronological order of the episode. This time we're just going to dive right into the Mad Queen because it's what we all want to talk about. So, except for Shane, who is who is very sad. So from what I've seen on social media, this turn of events was much less shocking for book readers than it was for people who've only seen the show. And I think that's because in the books we do get chapters from Dany's point of view. Linda's another book reader, so that's why I'm looking at her. And she has a lot of that, like, she's very goal-oriented. She's always thinking about how she's going to take back the throne. She doesn't do a lot of introspection or thinking about her motivations. One of her refrains is kind of like, you know how Scarlett O'Hara is always like, I'll think about it tomorrow. One of Dany's refrains is, if I turn back now, I'm lost. If I look back now, I'm lost. She refuses to look at her actions or give them much thought. She literally had thoughts of becoming a dragon as she was walking into Khal Drogo's funeral pyre. And the way she thinks about her children, as though, and the show has tried to convey this, she really does, in the books, believe the dragon are her children. And when people talk about them as being monsters or as being dangerous, she thinks, well, if they're monsters, so am I. Like, she's very tied to them. And then in later books, she becomes increasingly paranoid and Dancing and Dragons. Things are going really badly in Marine. She even starts hallucinating, and she repeatedly reminds herself that she's the blood of the dragons and tells herself the house words fire and blood. And what she has wanted most of all, and I think we see this in the show, we see this in the first season, and especially, is that she wants to be loved and accepted. And this is really depicted in the show where she's like the white savior in season 3, where the slaves are holding her up over her head, their heads, and calling her mother. She kind of expected that reception everywhere, and that didn't really happen. But did the show build up to this moment as well as the books have, and hopefully will do? It's been foreshadowed a lot.
I think so.
It's
I
been
wasn't
foreshadowed a
shocked.
lot.
I was not shocked at all by it.
Yeah, and I think giving even the voiceovers, like the show kind of tried to go out of their way to show us that, hey, we've been talking about this, because in the previously on they did this voiceover. Oh, the gods flip a coin, and the Targaryens either mad or great, or
they did a lot.
Targaryen alone in the world. Yeah,
I've been for 3 seasons now. I haven't liked her, and for at least from the last season, thought she's going to go crazy. So, and I don't read the books.
Well, and it was very, like, even in season 1, remember they thought that she was going to give birth to the stallion who mounts the world, and Miriam Azador said that the stallion will burn cities to the ground. It's long been thought by book readers that the stallion is Dany, and that it was only like a male term because it's such a patriarchal society, but that she's really the stallion who melt the world, who will burn cities to the ground.
Which she did.
Yeah, and in season 2, when she's standing outside of Korth, she promises that her dragons will burn cities to the ground once they're full grown. She often says she will take back what is rightfully hers with fire and blood. I think she very famously said that to someone in season 2, very impassionedly, and then she got home and her dragons were stolen. In season 6, she threatens to return the cities of Slaver's Bay to the dirt. Her very first impulse upon arriving to King's Landing was to Westeros, was to go directly to King's Landing with her dragon with no regards to civilian life, and those instincts were only tempered by her advisors.
As they should have been.
As they should have been, yeah.
At that point she was still in love.
Well, that
hadn't
happened yet. This was like when she hadn't met Jon Snow yet. When she very first arrived to Westeros, she wanted to go directly to King's Landing with her dragons, and the Queen of Thorns and the Martells, like, they tried to say, yeah, that's exactly what you should do, and Tyrion was really the one who kind of held her back and was like, no, you don't want to be Queen of the Ashes, and she agreed, oh yeah, I don't want to be Queen of the Ashes.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what she was after watching Arya's face riding on that horse.
Yeah, no, it was, and she's never been shy about burning her enemies and looks upon her enemies very coldly. I think Liz said earlier in one of our recaps about that scene when Khal Drogo killed Viserys.
Her brother.
Yeah, and how coldly she looked on him when that was happening. Now, he was a real gem, but like he was her only relation. She just looked at him. Fire doesn't kill a dragon. Like, he wasn't.
Yeah. No, and I remember that moment. Like when I watched it the first time in the first season, it really struck me because she had you know, she at that point the character was young and abused and vulnerable, and she stood up for her brother too. So even though it was, you know, even though he'd become a danger to her, I remember like that was one of those first season moments.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things I did watch. Most of this season I haven't been. By the time I get to the end of the episode, I'm like done. I don't want to watch the showrunners, but I watched it last night, and that's one of the moments they were defending themselves, and that was one of the moments that I think they actually showed the clip.
Yeah, they did show the clip in the behind the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, but she burns not only those who betray her, but like who show her resistance, such as Sam's family. Like when that happened, she basically murdered prisoners of war in cold blood. Like she just cold-blooded executed them, and that didn't have to happen the way that it happened.
And I think that if this is just the show, not the books, but I think if you're looking for a place where you're supposed to have a feeling that Tyrion is having real second thoughts, that's the moment. Because he tried really hard to talk her out of that.
But Tyrion should have been having more second thought. I mean, he did, but
I think he's been drinking a lot more.
Right, but when
more than
when he betrayed Varys, I'm like, Tyrion, you know exactly where your pal's coming from here.
Yeah.
You know, like
he really didn't have a choice.
At that point, he didn't have a choice.
He had a choice
Because Varys came to Jon, and if Jon had gone to Dany first, then Tyrion would have been executed as well. But so we get in like season 6, Dario tells her that she's not a ruler, she's a conqueror, and he's absolutely right, because she was horrible at ruling Meereen. Everything was going down south really fast, everything was falling apart. She had no plans, she just wanted to take over the city. So there was nothing, you know, no forethought to what's going to happen to the economy or what's going to happen to society. She just wanted to be a queen, there was no plan.
Yeah, there was no plan.
Or even
after.
like, what was she going to do with the Dothraki after unleashing them on Westeros? They're a race of pillagers, plunderers, rapers, and slavers. They're now a displaced, extremely violent people, but there was never any plan for what to do with them beyond taking over the continent.
Relocation of the
and I mean, and setting people on fire has always been her power move. You know, we saw that in when she got the Unsullied. I think that
we saw that last night.
We saw that last night. But we saw that in season 6 when she killed the Khals.
Yep.
She's always been very tied to the fire.
I thought the Dothraki were done.
There were a few that survived and rode back. They did show that.
I was almost happy to see them.
You're almost happy to see them until they're like cutting down children.
Well, that was my thing with, I'm like, she doesn't even care at this point that she's killing her own people.
No.
She's carrying the Unsullied, she's killing the Dothraki. She didn't care.
No, she didn't care.
Like
that was actually sort of a point, I think, I didn't pick up on it quite this way last week, but when Sansa says at the War Council back in Winterfell, the armies need rest, and
she was like, forget it. Because
Sansa
was right.
And Dany was like, oh, you're not going to help me, and Sansa says, no, your men need rest. And she clearly didn't care. I mean, it was just very.
She freed these people, and then only to burn them all later.
But did she free them? Or did she secure herself an army and make herself a queen?
Yeah.
Was it always altruistic, like that she was a liberator, or were they a means to an end?
They were means to an end. She wasn't a liberator. The fact that she's like, I need to rid the world of one less tyrant. Okay, well, you're way crazier and more tyrannical than Cersei ever was.
So let's talk a moment about her supervillain vibes, because I've been saying for like a couple of years now, like that she has Thanos vibes, because I feel like there's a lot of parallels between her and Thanos, and like those tendencies obviously were on full display last night. But she's so sure about her convictions that she's, that what she's doing for the is for the greater good, that she can't listen to reason, and just
but
like
her only conviction is that she's supposed to be queen.
Is that she's supposed to be queen?
That's
but yeah, just like Thanos thought killing half the population would be the best thing to conserve resources, Dany said that killing civilians in King's Landing was for the greater good because it would free future generations from tyrants. Neither one of those things make any sense.
No, absolutely not.
Neither one of them.
Just her justification for why she wanted to just burn that city.
Right, and it's she's been so unreasonably sure about her destiny as the queen that not else matters to her. And every single step she's taken has been towards that goal.
Which is why when anybody thought that when Jon Snow was going to let her know that she'd be like, oh, we can rule together. Oh, that was a nice little fairy tale.
No, because it's a threat to what she's always believed is her true purpose.
Yeah.
Poor Shane. Just taking it in. But yeah, since season 1, she's been really unreasonably sure of her destiny as the queen, and not much else has mattered to her in every step she's taken. But like, you know, she emerged from the fire with the dragons, so she thought she had a certain destiny, and that destiny was going to be Westeros. You know, that you could see that in the way that she just kind of demanded that people subjugate themselves to her. You know, on walking to Westeros, it's bend the knee or die, basically. You know, she took over the Lannister army and the spoils of war, and then the Great Liberator said, "Hi, you can either swear your allegiance to me, or you can get burned to death by my dragon." So,
yeah. There was no freedom there.
No, I think, you know, what she was always interested in is power, and I think when they talked about breaking the wheel in season 7, and Tyrion was talking about democracy, Dany was talking about making it so that the great houses of Westeros could never threaten Targaryen rule ever again. She wasn't talking about remaking a democracy. She wasn't about to hold an election. You know, she was talking about,
she's queen.
Yeah, she was talking about securing her line of power. Also, there's like the very like kind of giving, and I kind of threw this in as a joke, but like no good person ever gives themselves a nickname about how awesome they are. I am the breaker of chains. It's like people who walk around going like, I'm so nice. I'm the nice one. They're never the nice one.
Yeah, I saw that when she had to do her own announcing.
Yeah. I was like, who does that? Like, just say, hey, I'm Queen Daenerys. You don't have to, throw in all your extra.
I sentence you to death.
Yeah.
Was that the beginning of this?
That was the very beginning. So so all of her followers too, except for Miss Sandy, are following her because she has special magic fire powers. Like they watched her walk into fire and they're amazed by her. Or she has dragons and they're amazed by her. Or because they're in love with her or they want to sleep with her. Other than Miss Sandy, there weren't really a lot of her loyal followers who are loyal to her because they think she's going to be a great
Well, I want to be loyal to her for that reason, out of fear. Yeah.
Well, exactly, and fear is brittle, right?
Yeah.
So this is not, like, Martin likes to play with expectations for characters, so this is not, like, entirely unexpected or out of the, this is pretty on brand for George R.R. Martin. Like, the Lannisters were villain, yet we ended up emphasizing with Cersei and rooting for Jaime. And then Joffrey was, like, the perfect golden fantasy prince, and he ended up being a total monster. Tyrion does terrible things, but we still love him and have, an appreciation for him. He does much worse things in the books, but he does bad things in the show.
Terrible.
Well, he killed Shay.
Well, she deserved to be killed.
Really? He killed his father.
Well, he deserved to be killed.
He didn't need to do either one of those things, though. He could have just left the castle.
No, I'm glad he killed those. I don't think he's terrible for those people.
Well,
I just think it showed him as very complex.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody in these books and shows has layers. So Dany was supposed to be a villain, yet she was supposed to be a villain we were meant to fall in love with. Like we were supposed to emphasize with her journey, and I think most of us did. Up to a certain extent. For some of us, that certain extent came like Noelle stopped emphasizing with her 3 seasons ago. Up until last night, I kind of dug her. But I kind of expected what she was going to do. But yeah, we were meant to fall in love with her so that she could break our hearts. Like so, we were supposed to be behind her so that she could rip our soul-eating hearts out of our chest.
Oh, I'm happy actually. I'm not happy that all those people died, but I'm happy being justified in my dislike of her. So.
Right.
So I win.
You win. I mean, it wasn't a competition, but
in my head it was. I've always been Team Cersei.
Another trademark of George R.R. Martin is that he likes to show the human heart in conflict. So her internal battle has always been kind of between her empathy and her ruthlessness. So she did save hostages from being raped by the Dothraki, and she freed slaves, whatever her reasons were. And those are things that kind of show her empathy, but she also burned and killed all the masters in Yonkai, and then crucified all the masters in Meereen. She doles out the kind of justice that she thinks is fair, and has always been ruthless about it. So that's her human heart in conflict, and I think one of the things that is unfortunate is that we didn't really see any conflict in her in this episode. We didn't really, even when she was listening to the bells, you could tell she was just getting ramped up.
I thought she was crying.
But I think she was crying because it was too easy.
I thought she was crying because at first, well, this clearly wasn't the reason, but at first I was like, oh, she's crying because she's actually done it. Like, now she's done it, the bells have rung, they've surrendered, she's gotten the Iron Throne, she's made it, this is her destiny fulfilled. And then she's like, yeah, no, I'm not done here, and that's when the craziness happened.
Yeah, but there didn't seem to be any conflict. It's just like on all emotions.
And at first, too, I didn't even think she was gonna go and burn the parts of the city. I thought she was gonna like fly
right to the Red
Keep, right to Cersei.
Right to the Red Keep.
And I'm like, okay, I can understand why she's gonna go burn down Cersei. That's fine. But then, like, why is she doing this to all these innocent people?
To me, it seemed like the bells in itself hit something in her. Some past thing that I don't know when she was first thrown out of King's Landing.
She was never in King's Landing. She was born on Dragonstone in the storm, and then she was immediately as an infant taken to Essos. So she has no history in Westeros.
So that wouldn't have hit something in her.
No, I mean, I think D&D at the recap of the episode inside tried to say that looking at the Red Keep reminded her of all that was taken from her and that she snapped. But to me, I always feel like they're kind of gaslighting us in those, because like there's a lot of retcon, there's a lot of like revisionist history, there's a lot of like trying to justify their own actions. And to me, it didn't seem like, oh, she's looking at the Red Keep and she's thinking about all that was taken from her, so she wants to burn the city to the ground. She just won the city, so that doesn't make any sense. I don't trust anything they say. I think they're full of nonsense. But
I think it's purposely ambiguous. I mean, you see her there, she's clearly emotional. It's still a chaotic scene, and you know that her whole purpose in life is to be queen. So, and your reaction, I think, is what is universal. I think we're all watching it being like, oh, she's won. Now, I was thinking maybe Jon's going to go talk to Cersei. How are they going to do this? And then, and I think I thought the same thing. I thought, because the dragon shadow over the city had been foretold.
And they showed it. They showed that exact scene.
So I was like, okay, now we're getting that scene. And I did think she was going to do the Red Keep, because they had shown the destroyed throne room in one of the prophecy visions. But no.
Yeah, I thought they would probably like go, maybe even just capture Cersei, have like a total like trial, like, and then she could set her on foot. No. And I had totally forgot about the prophecy of the Valancourt to that point. I'm like, Valancourt, we're at that point. I'm like, oh. So when she died, I wasn't even thinking that, but then, Cersei.
So let's talk about Varys for a moment, because he was our first major character casualty on this episode. The first of 6? 5?
Cersei, Jaime,
the Hound.
Euron. So that's 6. He's like a secondary.
7 main characters.
The Mountain.
That's 7.
All right. So he was the first one. So an interesting thing about Varys is he's the only one on Dany's team who also served her father, which in retrospect, maybe people should have listened to Varys a little bit more because he's the only one with previous Targaryen Mad King experience. One of the notes I also put was the only other person who really hadn't trusted her from the beginning was Sansa, and it was played off as like kind of a petty cattiness in the Winterfell scenes. Yet Sansa's as the one with the most experience with like the most evil characters on the show. She had Joffrey, Cersei, Ramsay. There was something in Dany that she saw immediately that she didn't like, and we've never seen her be petty to anybody else. I never thought it was pettiness. I think she just didn't trust her.
I don't think she was jealous or petty of her at all. I thought, same thing.
And then so when I was reading reviews of the previous episode, and people were like, "Oh, well, Sansa's trying to be Littlefinger, trying to plant information," I was like, "No, she's genuinely doesn't think Dany's the right person."
Yeah, and Jon, no, she wasn't. And Jon was, told her, and Dany knew. And you can't blame Sansa for wanting to tell Tyrion that. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Like this crazy person who's about to go burn entire city is actually not the rightful heir anyway.
Sansa also, Sansa, the way they have it set up, won't be surprised when she hears what happened.
Absolutely not.
Because remember when she tells Jaime, you know, when she told him what had happened to them on the way back to Dragonstone, you can tell that she expects them to totally destroy the city. Them being Dany.
Yeah. Yeah, she's immediately like, your sister's gonna be executed, your sister's gonna die. Like, she doesn't even think it's gonna be a contest. She's like,
Exactly,
And when Tyrion goes to free Jaime too, he's very sure it's not going to be a contest. Like, we are going to take that city out. Like, it's, So.
Because Jaime's like, what? You've underestimated her before. He's like, no, listen.
Fire and blood time. it's going down. But Varys sent out a lot of scrolls. He sent out a lot of scrolls. He had a little pile of them next to him. So I'm thinking that those probably all met with ravens at some point and got sent out to various lords in Westeros. I'm thinking lords in Westeros, or even Mopatis, and it was Illyrio Mopatis from the who was the one who arranged Dany's marriage to the Dothraki, because they were working together at one point in the earlier seasons.
Season 1.
Yeah, So he was probably telling anybody of influence and power that he could that this is what's going. He sent one to Dorne. There's a new prince in Dorne. I'm sure he sent them far and wide.
So Dany now needs to kill Jon.
I mean, that's basically. She has to.
Yeah.
She has to.
Yeah.
But we're gonna kill Dany before she can kill Jon.
Yeah. Well.
I don't know. I don't like Jon Snow either. You saying that?
I don't want him on the
when
throne.
he died the first time, the only time, I didn't care. I was kind of disappointed they brought him back.
Honestly, like the show Jon Snow is so like comically broody all the time.
Boring.
That like there's no, and again, like you know, as a book reader, you get to see like the insights into these characters. So we know that there's more than just him walking around pouting, feeling sorry for himself. But like in the show, it's just like he's this real like feeling sorry for himself, like a doom and gloom kind of character. It's just not fun to watch.
No, he's been pretty much consistently my least favorite character of the whole series.
Yeah, he's pretty boring in the show, to be honest. Yeah. So let's talk about the battle. I was very worried about all the scorpions on the castles and the boats.
I was too.
Which I was kind of. How did they get through all that?
I know.
It
didn't really make sense. But they did come. She did come from behind, and they were cumbersome to move. So I can see how she could have gotten the first couple of shots.
Though,
she came from behind, so they had to like turn them around, and they were cumbersome to turn around.
Okay. I thought she initially came from the front. And
No,
then
they were pointed
Okay.
towards the keep, and she
Alright.
came from behind them.
Okay.
And then they had to try to turn them, and they were like cumbersome. They didn't move very well, and it took a long time to like swing them. So I could see her getting like the two first bursts of flame in, but then after that, it was like, how is she dodging these left, right, and center? And then when she went to the castle wall, it was kind of like they were all pointed at her.
And it's funny because like at the very beginning of the show, we're like, oh my god, don't hit the dragon, you know? And then at some point I'm like, why did they hit the dragon?
You know,
it seemed like she was ready for it this time.
she was, I think that's a big difference
She did come in at different
too.
angles to
Yeah.
take them out.
Yeah, I think that was like the big difference when Viserion went down in that episode in season 7. That was Beyond the Wall. They were taken completely unawares. They didn't know that the Night King had these ice spears. And then when Rhaegal was taken, which I wasn't here last week for our discussion of Rhaegal's death, but it was very stupid. They did like a trick curved shot around a rock to like get him through that neck. Like, but like they somehow were soaring up above and didn't see a fleet in their harbor. And I mean so his death was stupid, but she was taken unawares. And this time she knew what she was getting into, and I think that did make a difference. She went in with a plan. She went in from behind. But there were still like 42 scorpions, so like one of them you would have thought would have hit her. Tyrion does make like one last attempt to let Jon know that the bells mean surrender. Tyrion was trying to tell everybody who would listen, hey, if they ring those bells,
then that's why it was so like pertinent too, because we had been reminded, they ring the bells, it's over, nobody's gonna come attack, and then she's still
the Golden Company looks very impressive at the start of the battle.
Doesn't last long.
I think they're realists.
Yeah, but that they were standing there like, yeah. And I thought that was kind of a great little scene where, you know, the two armies are like facing off and neither one of them are making a move. They're just waiting, and then all of a sudden you start hearing these little noises in the background, and the Golden Company looks around, and then all of a sudden fire and dragon, and they're all blown away. But we see people being herded into the gates as supposedly it's going to keep them safe. Cersei looks very confident at the start of the battle. She's at her the same window, it looks like, where she watched the steps burn.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and we see Arya and the Hound getting into the gates at the expense of a mother and child who end up being our civilian touch points through the episode.
Yeah.
I was very happy initially when Drogon lit up the Iron Fleet, especially when he got Euron's bow. I was like, take that guy out. Do not like that guy. Yeah. Yeah. Very happy to watch Euron die. Then when
Except he
Didn't
he
die.
didn't
for
die.
so long.
Yeah,
It was like,
it took so long. So yeah, even his fight with Jaime, he stabbed Jaime twice before he.
I thought that was a really stupid scene.
I was sitting there last night watching it, going like, why are we wasting film time with this fight between Jaime and Euron? I do not care about the fight for Cersei. Like nobody cares.
Euron should have just been burnt, and then Jaime could have just died the way he died.
Yeah.
He could have been injured. I mean, there were so many ways he could have been injured trying to get to Cersei.
It was so unnecessary.
And it was, and I thought it was so cheesy.
Yeah.
I mean, really, and Euron with a smile.
Yeah, I'm imagine Jaime.
Yeah.
But then you didn't though.
Yeah, he didn't really, and I did see, people complaining about it last night. They did waste, for all that, there's, everything feels a lot very rushed to me this season. Like like even, like the stuff with Dany, it's like we went immediately from her being like really helpful in the Night King episode to like, oh, she's crazy now in the course of like one episode. Like some of this stuff could have been like spent a little bit more time on or developed, but we wasted so much film on this stupid Jack Sparrow guy.
Yeah.
He was completely unnecessary.
And it wasn't even like, he became more guard, but like we haven't been following his story. Like he just came in.
The whole baby nonsense.
Yeah.
Ended up being built all that up to nothing.
To nothing. Yeah.
And getting stabbed in your abdomen and then just, pulling yourself together. I mean, really. And they did that with Arya.
Yeah.
And I thought that I was really annoyed by that too. I mean, you can have, you can have a plot advance with someone getting badly wounded, but seriously, you shouldn't show them really receiving a mortal blow.
Yeah.
And just, being like,
Yeah, it's a little unrealistic, just a tiny bit. And when Qui-Gon comes to tell Cersei that the Scorpions in the fleet have all been destroyed, she still feels like really confident, and she's like the men will fight to defend their queen. The Red Keep has never fallen. I think most of us knew then that the Lannister men were not going to fight to defend
and that's why they're all dropping their swords.
Yeah, the very next scene they're all dropping their swords.
Like even if Dany went crazy, there you've got and Sully doing the still go after like that. They just dropped their swords. They don't want to fight anymore.
But they had all just seen Sandy beheaded.
Well, yeah, and that was it, because Grey Worm was the one who was like, I don't care that you guys have surrendered. I'm gonna throw a spear through you.
He became mad too.
He did.
He's untethered now.
Yeah.
He had nothing to rein him in.
Yeah.
So I think you're supposed to see that.
So the carnage in this episode to me was the worst violence on the show ever, and I feel like that says a lot. There was just like every single scene was somebody being gouged, or they're having their head sliced open, it was awful. It was children. It was innocents. It was it was beggarmen on the street. It was everybody, and nobody was spared. It was the worst violence I've ever seen on the show. And I feel like
Which
Which
might
is
be like
saying
the
something
mountain and
else.
the hound too. We almost saw
Yes.
eye
So let's talk about
Oh,
Clegane
yeah.
Bowl. Let's talk
Oh.
about Clegane Bowl. So the first best part about Clegane Bowl was when the mountain killed Wyvern.
That was like the most Game of Thrones
Actually,
death I
yeah.
felt like.
Yes.
It was so
Yes.
sudden.
Yeah.
It was
was
shocking.
awesome.
It was great.
And then seriously, like, got the
Yeah,
stairs
she
right
tiptoed.
out
You're just pardon me. I'm just gonna.
I know.
And they died by fire.
They did,
Yeah.
the mountain was very difficult to kill too.
You would just like
He was
just die.
undead.
It's like I'm stabbing you in the head.
Right, yeah, at that point where he had the sword in
Yeah.
his head. Oh, it was great. I love that scene.
And I think it did end with both of them dying, which I think is very fitting that both of them died. Going into the fire. It was actually like the first pair of siblings that died together in this episode. But it was also very important because of what Sandor had said to Arya in the previous scene, which was, "Do you really want to live to grow up to be like me?" And because he knew that he was going to die taking on his brother, and that he lived his whole life in pursuit of this revenge, and what had it really brought to him, what had it given him.
Right.
So then we get Arya's flight through the city, which is probably one of the most harrowing sequences.
Arya would have easily have killed Cersei.
Oh, she would have easily killed Cersei.
Easily.
She would have taken Cersei out, and I think it was there were a lot of things that I think were kind of disappointing that didn't happen. Which one of them would have been Arya hasn't used a single face this season.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe she does
there
that.
must be. I mean, I've been waiting. It's like it's like Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Arya is a faceless man, so I'm assuming that will have something to do with the
I thought
resolution.
someone was going to take off Arya's face. I was like, someone's going to take off her face. Like,
No.
I'm sick and tired of being Arya's child.
No, actually, it was interesting when they were just riding
That's a
to the
different
city,
idea.
and at first I was like, she's not. I thought then would be a time where you should be disguised, and I thought,
Yeah.
well, no one here has any idea who she is.
Right, so she
Yeah.
doesn't need to be in a disguise. But yeah, her flight through the city to try to leave, I think, was one of the most harrowing sequences.
Yeah.
Because it was another one of those, like, how is she possibly surviving this?
She's Arya.
But she's Arya. And then the mother and the child, and seeing them burnt to death, and then arrives a white horse
Yeah.
for Arya to climb upon, which, for those who don't know, white horses often symbolize death, pale horse. So it's kind of interesting that they chose a white horse for her to ride out of the city on.
She's going to go shut some
She's
green
delivering
eyes.
stuff.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
going to
So
shut
it
Danny's
gave her a
eyes.
lot of ammunition.
It gave her a lot of ammunition. There was a great tweet that was going around that showed a picture of her from episode 1 where she's looking at the dragons and she's in awe, and then a picture from the last episode where she's looking up the sky. She's got blood and dirt and stuff all over her face, and she just looks horrified watching the dragon.
I was horrified watching Danny.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So let's talk Jaime and Cersei. They were reunited, tearful.
Well, that
reunion.
baby was never going to be born.
That baby was never going to be
Show
born.
ended anyway.
No, because she wasn't showing at all. We only have an
No.
hour and a half left of the show.
Kind of like her hair.
Yeah, kind of like her hair. But so they try to flee, but they find their way blocked, and they die in each other's arms. So they died. They came into the world together. This is another season 1 callback. We've been having so many season 1 callbacks, but they came into the world together. Cersei said Jaime was holding onto her foot as they exited the womb, and then they exited the world together in each other's arms. And the Vlankar prophecy was fulfilled because he had his arms around her neck. So
Yeah.
as life choked out of her, so he didn't kill her.
He brought her down there too.
And
Technically.
yeah, and technically. But think about how much of like Cersei's life was driven by this prophecy and her thinking that it was going to be Tyrion.
Yeah.
That so many of her decisions were based on the idea that she thought Tyrion was going to be the one who
Just
killed her.
briefly, I thought they were really going to get in the boat and sail away.
Yeah, live happily ever after in Essos. I don't know what show
No
you're
one loves
watching.
that. No such thing.
I mean, this was another thing that really disappointed people though, because Jaime's alleged arc was going to be that he left behind his sister and his obsession with her and her hatefulness and her, whatever, that he was going to forge a life without Cersei. and instead he went right back to where he started in episode 1. He even said to her, "Nothing in the world matters but you and I," which is something he said to her in, I don't know, episode 2.
Although, I mean, she was hysterical.
Yeah.
I think you could look at that as something that he, what you say, he knew they were doomed.
Yeah.
And they did give him, if you look at it from another angle, a very heroic arc, because Tyrion sends him in to try and get Cersei to, that one last attempt to get her to surrender.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't know whether.
Well, he got on the horse in Winterfell and went down there for Cersei. So his motivations are not necessarily Tyrion's motivations.
Right.
He didn't believe that Tyrion's plan was going to work.
That's
So
true.
he and it's a very purposeful on the writers' behalf to use an exact line that Jaime said to Cersei in episode 2
I
after he
know.
threw a child out of a window to
Yes,
protect them.
I mean, it's true. In the end, their bond was so strong that
Yeah.
he couldn't.
Yeah.
Which
live
this might be
without
how it happens in the books too. Like maybe his arc, because like I said, Martin likes to play with people's expectations. So maybe we're expecting this heroic redemption arc, and it's just not going to come.
I was happy with it.
I kind of like the
Yeah.
poeticness of it, of
Yeah.
them dying together.
I love them. We all end up
No,
loving
it was
them
just
in
like,
the end,
It's
right?
a reminder the
Right?
series is over.
Yeah.
Those two characters are gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, considering all the evil deeds Cersei did, she had a pretty easy time of it.
Honestly, like Cersei's looking pretty good to me right now, though, as far as
Yeah.
evil queens go.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
All she did was blow up a set.
I know. I was wondering, sort of.
And she trapped all the innocent civilians too, though.
Yeah, a couple of innocent civilians, but they were mostly like the really pious
Yeah.
people, and they weren't great. They weren't really great.
They were religious fanatics.
They were religious fanatics. They were going through the streets like dispensing their own justice. I mean, I wasn't sad to see any of them die. I was
No.
I was sad to
No.
see Marjorie die.
Yeah.
yeah, me
I
too.
was-
But
she was
it
one of my
was
favorites.
She was yeah, she was the
but
probably the best
Marjorie
queen.
wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily an innocent, civilian. Marjorie
have a-
was,
Marjorie
Jen
was
Jones.
actually good, though.
We have a comment from someone who said they like Jamie and Brienne.
Jamie and
Yeah.
Brienne.
well,
then
that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think it's too bad because Jamie and Brienne. It was a cute moment for us in that last episode, but it just wasn't. He had unresolved business with his sister. He couldn't jump into that relationship wholeheartedly. It was a
Yeah.
bummer. It was not great.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling them.
No.
Again, it was something they rushed into.
It was something they rushed into,
Super
yeah.
quick.
And if it had been more like the romance part of their relationship had been building over several episodes rather than, hey, we were playing a drinking game, let's jump into bed together.
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit more. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel for Brienne because she had this deep love for Renly that was unrequited, and then she loved
Right,
Jamie, and it was
Okay,
kind
because
of
at
unrequited.
first, when they were saying how, like, her sobbing for Jamie, I went back and I watched that scene with her sobbing for Renly, and I'm like, oh no, she sobs for men.
Yeah, that's
It's
just
actually in her character.
yeah,
so she's
it's her character. She's multifaceted, so she can be a knight and still be
Yeah.
this romantic. You
Well,
get really sad.
She sobbed for Renly because he died, though, right?
Yeah,
That
but Jamie
that
was gonna die too. Jamie was right himself. He wasn't gonna return.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we looking for in the finale? So we know that Barry sent out a lot of those scrolls before he was executed. So do we think that because of the magic time travel in Westeros that opposing armies are going to start descending upon King's Landing to
Not while she has her dragon.
so do we think Drogon makes it out of the episode? Because I kind of think Drogon might live. I think Drogon might live, and even if Dany dies, Drogon might live and go live on Volantis or something.
Well, we
Old
need to-
Valyria.
I don't know. I mean, one of my thoughts last night was we need to get rid of the dragons.
I think
hope there are no dragon
I think
episodes.
Drogon. I bet Drogon lives. I'm gonna bet on
The
Drogon
other thing
lives.
is Drogon has a connection with Jon.
Well, Rhaegal had a connection with Jon.
No, Drogon, remember they
No, he
said-
let him pet him because
He
he's
let
a
him
tart.
pet
He's
him.
not his dragon.
No, but
Can he become
he
his
sort of.
dragon?
He can
Is
become
that
his
how
dragon.
it
So
has to be?
Yeah.
dragons are monogamous as long as their rider is alive. But as soon as their rider is dead, they can choose a new rider.
Yeah, that's
But
what
the
I'm
dragon
saying.
chooses the rider. The rider does not choose the dragon. This is very important.
But I do think, I mean, I'm wondering if, who knows? Who knows?
But does Jon
what these
live?
crazy
Because
shit writers will
if
do.
Jon doesn't live, then it doesn't matter if he and Drogon like each other.
I just want Sansa and Arya to live and take it all.
I mean, I'm gonna predict that if Sansa doesn't end up queen of everything, she's at least gonna be queen of the North, because her
Sure
character's arc is that she's going to be the
Except
ruler of something.
Danny's next goals are going to be to get rid of Jon and Sansa.
I wouldn't be
They're the
surprised
two
if she
ones
flies with Drogon to Winterfell to take out Sansa in the next episode. To be honest with you,
Tyrion betrayed her.
Tyrion betrayed her when he released Jaime.
At this point, though, does it even matter who
Yeah.
betrayed
Do
her,
you
who
think-
did
do you
it?
think-
Yeah, she's just gonna kill people like
Well, I know.
you
Do you
looked
think
at me
Tyrion
funny.
will care? I mean,
Yeah, I'd be like, sorry.
Tyrion is probably not going to want to be her aunt.
I'm sure.
Nobody's on Dany's side after that,
No.
except for her, Dothraki.
Grey
They're
Worm.
just,
Yeah.
but they've already fought a battle. That's the only use they had, was to just,
Right.
I don't know, like, none of the main characters are on her side, so I don't think it matters that Tyrion did what he did. I mean, she'll kill him for whatever. For all she knows, she already did kill him.
Yeah.
She already killed everybody, for all she knows. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, she wasn't worried about whether or not her army or Jon Snow or whoever could
No.
escape the city.
No.
She didn't look like.
No, but it was almost like, well, no one loves me, so I'm gonna burn them.
Well, and that's
It's
what.
like,
Yeah, that was one of the things I thought
yeah.
maybe were her
Yeah.
motivation, because like I
Yeah.
said, she expected the adoration wherever she went. She just wanted the love, and the people didn't love her. Instead, they went to Cersei for protection,
Right.
and I
And they
think
loved,
that's part of.
they loved Jon Snow.
Yeah, and I think she saw that their lack of love for her, when she had always been told that people were crying out in the kingdoms for their one true king, like she saw that as a betrayal, and so she didn't mind burning them alive.
Right, and like she says to Jon, so I guess it's fair when she's kissing him at the beginning and he pulls away, and she's like, so I guess we'll be out of fear,
Yeah.
That's when she realized,
Yes.
okay.
So Jon can't overcome her being his aunt.
Which
That
is
was-
fair.
Yeah. They've cleared that point up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As common as incest is in the Targaryen lines, it is not a practice in the North.
Is it
So
a possibility that she's pregnant and that will be revealed?
I don't know how they tie that up.
I
I think she dies.
I think she's
I think
gonna,
she dies.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's gonna
I
die.
think it's gonna be a Stark family effort.
Yep.
They're gonna
Stark
work together.
family effort.
And I'm-
Which would make sense,
Yeah.
because they were minding their own business, and then they got pulled into the,
Yeah, they got pulled into this conflict.
to
They
the
didn't really.
politics, and,
Yeah. They got pulled into it in Robert's War, and they didn't want to because Lyanna and Rhaegar eloped, and then they got pulled into it the second time.
Downhill from there.
Yeah, everything went downhill from there. So does anybody have any? One of my do you have something?
Somebody on Facebook suggested that John will kill him.
So
Another-
there's some theory, there's some book lore for that with the Azor Ahai prophecy that he has to kill his wife. He killed a woman that he loves. In it's often been thought that Jon is supposed to be the Azor Ahai character, even though he didn't kill the Night King. He was the one who united the forces who fought the Night King, so it still kind of fits that role. That could be a prophesized thing. I mean, we don't know what kind of role Arya is going to play.
She still has green eyes to shut too.
She does still have green eyes to shut. What were the brown eyes? We think that's the
The
phrase.
phrase,
The
yeah.
phrase. So, yeah, interesting. So one of the things that I wanted to mention that I thought was a great was when they showed the city on fire, the little cachets of wildfire popping up. That was a
Yes,
great
yes,
detail.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Did anybody else have anything in the episode that they either like really loved or really hated or
I
have
really,
feelings about?
really liked Arya's re-entrance into
Mm.
King's Landing.
Oh, yeah.
That
She
was
kinda
her first
strut in
time
there,
being
right?
back, and
Yeah.
She really owned it.
Yeah, she was
She
strutting.
really showed how
Yeah.
much she had changed over, this whole thing.
Yeah.
Coming to kill Queen Cersei.
Yeah.
A lot of
she was always honest about that.
Yeah.
A lot of the battle sequence was really breathtaking. I mean, it was like beautiful cinematography, and it was just that last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason I ended up watching inside the episode is because I was just like sitting there.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just
It couldn't get up. It was just too much. Yeah. And they didn't really give very much away on the next time on Game of Thrones.
No,
It was like,
no.
yeah.
They just showed Dany like standing there. Like,
Yeah. No, I almost was like, I don't really care.
Did we get a trailer though?
I don't know if we'll get a trailer. The inside of the episode was not. I mean, of the next time on was not a full trailer like normal.
Yeah.
I am glad that there are still things unresolved though. I was afraid we were gonna go into this episode with all of the action done,
Yes.
and it would just be like
Everything
filler, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what happens now. I'm glad there's still like things that have to happen.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go into the final. I think there's gonna be action in the final episode too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be one of the character moment
I would say
episodes.
it's a shame, last week, I rewatched the last week's episode, and had a better reaction to it than I did on our discussion last Monday morning. But I noticed the conversation between Tyrion and Sir Davos about, what does the Lord of Light want? We don't know, it's just like, we did all this, and I had wondered if that was a foreshadowing of something. Although the Lord of Light likes fire, so maybe that was the Lord of Light burning the city to the ground. I don't know. But I wonder if there's, since all those scrolls have gone out, if there's going to be, something like that, some intervention. I just wonder if they're going to fall back on more magic at this point. I don't know. Like, nothing was surprised. I guess we're supposed to be at the point where nothing's surprising.
No.
Right. Well, the magic's mostly left the world now, right? We got one dragon left. We don't have any more ice zombies.
Right.
We got no more high red priestess.
Right. But isn't there
There
in
was-
Essos?
There are other red priestesses,
Yeah.
but like the one in Westeros is done.
Yes.
We don't
yes.
have it wasn't Barracks, but Barracks priest too. We had 2 red
Right,
priests
and
and
then
they're
Oh.
both gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're thriving across the North.
Oh, and the children of the forest are gone too. Yeah, so it's just like the
I
red.
know.
Oh, we have
So-
Bran.
Yeah, that's it. We
Yeah.
have Bran.
Whatever he
Which
is.
still,
Whatever
what
he's
does he
doing.
do?
What is he
Did
doing?
Bran get to see because you can see the past, right? So does he get okay, this just happened. This
Yeah.
just
I
happened.
think he probably
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So like download it in a
Sansa,
minute.
like
Yeah.
Sansa's watching TV by listening to Bran,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't think he talks when he does it though, so he'll probably
never
never.
thought. I wonder if Sansa will take her army down there.
I think they have her
army.
army. Her army is down
John
there.
has her
Yeah,
army.
John has her army.
Which is why Sansa will be even more pissed because
Yeah.
she just burned all of their army
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
even thinking.
Yeah. That's her men.
Yeah. That's why she was mad. She knew that they were making a mistake.
Something. We'll see her again.
No, we're not done with
Oh,
Sansa.
yeah.
We'll see
Oh,
Sansa.
we have to see
Yeah.
Sansa
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we
she's-
have to see her. She's one of the main characters.
She's the most equipped of anyone to rule.
Yeah.
There's nobody else that has the experience. And
Even John's not a great leader.
No,
This
no.
whole past 2
No,
seasons,
So they show
yeah.
that.
Yeah, he's not a great leader.
Sansa
Well,
just
he
being
has-
how are we going to feed all these people?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
practical things.
no, but
Yeah.
John. I mean, I think it's supposed to. John has good instincts. He's a great soldier.
Does he?
And his good instincts. No, I mean, maybe his instincts.
Well, there are
are
things that he was
questionable.
right about, but I
mean, I think he has a moral compass.
Yeah.
I guess
Yes.
maybe that's
Yeah.
that's
It's his execution though.
That's-
Like when he
yes.
let the wildlings be on the wall and he was like, "Hey guys, you're just gonna have to deal with it." When their whole job for thousands of years has been to keep wildlings on the other
Yeah.
side of the wall.
Yeah.
The execution of that was a little
Exactly.
clumsy. Yeah,
But he
There was a
he
reason
has
why he was
learned.
stabbed to death.
that's
Yeah,
There
no,
was a
but I think you're supposed to. I do think you're supposed to think that he has learned. I mean,
you're supposed to hope he has.
Yeah.
But the way he's been following Dany,
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think he has a moral compass, but he's not equipped. He keeps saying, I don't want that. I mean, he knows he doesn't want to be
yeah.
the king, and I think there's a reason. It's not just that he's modest.
But yeah, well, I hope it's not like them trying to be he's just a reluctant hero,
Yeah, and then he's gonna end up on the throne anyway.
Yeah, he's the reluctant hero, he's the one we need because he doesn't actually want it, and then it'll be, he's just...
No, I think he's, and he went off and left. He knew Sansa would do a good job in Winterfell when he left.
Yeah.
He knew that. He was more than correct. She did
Yeah.
a fabulous job.
But of course, then he didn't want to listen to her when she was like, "I have concerns about your new girlfriend."
Well, no, he had the, in his defense, he looked troubled. I mean, he looked very,
He always looks
That's
troubled.
true.
I mean, I was like, that's just
It's
an
just his
expression for
default.
7
Yes,
episodes.
he's just, I know. I mean, it's fine. I don't think I think he's an actor that maybe has no more range, but I think he's a better actor than that. This to me, it's like clearly direction. They're like, okay, Jon Snow, we got Lawrence.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he does it, and so he's either like an action hero or he's
Yeah. But other than poor Kit Harington, there was some great acting on the show last night. Lena did a wonderful job.
Oh.
Nick did a wonderful job.
I
Maisie
thought
did a
they
wonderful
all did
job.
great.
They was a great,
Yeah.
Amelia actually I thought was, even though they didn't really show her during the battle, that one scene when she was on the wall and she was having like getting ramped up to go fly out, or even like when she was all distraught.
When she was like clearly going mad when she was alone, I thought she did a fantastic job.
I thought she was great, and it was again a little cheesy, but the scene where they have Jamie and Tyrion tell each other how much.
Oh, I
they
love
that was a
that
great
scene.
And they were so good.
I love that one. I cried.
That was beautiful.
I may have cried like 3 times. Sorry.
No, well, I guess there were certain. I think it was just.
He knew it was goodbye.
Contrived. I mean, there were some things that I was just annoyed because so much of the show has just been so beautifully organic, and then this season's been clunky. They put in things, because they need to. The rushed part of it.
Yeah.
Jamie and Tyrion knew it was goodbye.
But no, there's a lot of rushed feeling.
So maybe it felt rushed and contrived. Cheesy's over the top. I take it back. But that was so well acted, though. I mean, the cast was so amazing.
Yeah.
And then Arya thanks Sandor.
Yeah, that was another great moment.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene.
Has she ever called him Sandor before?
No.
That was a big thing.
Yeah,
that was my favorite scene. Was the battle between her.
And he was the name on her list.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show you too, she didn't have to kill Cersei in the end. She was able to thank somebody on her list.
Yeah.
Arya's definitely grown the most.
Yeah. Alright guys, we gotta wrap it up because it's 9:30. We gotta go open the library. But
Well, I sat there at the end and I said, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned."
she was scorned by like everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In her head, I mean, she wasn't really necessarily scorned by it.
She was scorned.
Yes,
She was
was.
literally
She
She was literally scorned by Jon Snow.
It's his aunt.
She doesn't look at it like that.
It wasn't like he intentionally went out to break her heart. It's his aunt. So I mean, I don't see him
when
as
you come from
scorning
a
her.
family though, where brother and sisters have been marrying each other for generations,
But
aunt and nephew aren't really that big.
Sure, but she should look at it from where his perspective
She can't
is.
because her heart is broken.
And you were also just backing Cersei and Jamie too, and their love going down together.
That's fine. They
They're
chose
siblings.
to do that. They were able to get over it. John couldn't get over it, so I'm not going to be like, John, you have to, sleep with your aunt.
But she
she
still
was
feels
still
scorned.
scorned,
Yeah,
though,
she
because
still
she
has
had
the
that
right to
same
her own
love
emotions.
that
Yeah,
Cersei
but
and Jamie
she
had.
should
It's
be
all
able to.
his fault.
Right.
No, I don't think she was as scorned as we like to see her as being, because John was still like, "You're my queen," Tyrion, "You're my queen." You know what I mean? I don't think she's as scorned as she's just.
She was romantically rejected by him though.
Okay, and that's enough to go kill.
No, nobody's justifying this. That's not what this conversation is about. It's about whether or not she's a scorned woman.
And I really, Varys' final words, of course, were wonderful. And of course, they were, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
He was not.
And that made me sad that they had to kill him because he was great.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll have to look forward to the finale
The most watched show.
of the most watched show ever, and we will be back with our Librarians of the Citadel recap for that episode, and that will be Monday at 8:30. So join us then. We'll see what kind of emotions we're having, if we're all in mourning or if we're all angry.
We're all
if
just
all
like,
we're
all right,
we're like, we wasted 8 years of our lives on this show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.